I've got a new toy in the State of Charge garage. This here is a Tesla Supercharger extension cable. And what we're going to do here today is charge my Rivian R1S on a Tesla Supercharger with this guy. I'm going to talk about specifications, safety implications, possible use cases. I'm bringing on one of the engineers that worked on this so we can talk about technical details. And I'm going to finish up by telling you where you can order one if you decide you need one of these. With that said, let's get into it. All right, so it's a Tesla Supercharger extension cable. Why would anybody need anything like this? Teslas have been sold for how many years now? 14, 15 years now, and nobody's ever made or sold one of these before? Well, that's because Teslas are designed to work at Tesla Superchargers. Until this year, only Tesla vehicles charged at Tesla Superchargers. Tesla opened up its network of superchargers to other automakers, which I think was a very nice thing to do. It's the best, most comprehensive fast charging network in the world. And the fact that they allowed other automakers to use it, I think was a very magnanimous effort on Tesla's part. So I think the EV world thanks Tesla for doing that. Okay, that said, Tesla vehicles don't need any type of extension cable because their charge ports are on the rear left side of the vehicle. And Tesla Superchargers are designed so that the cable fits perfectly when you back into the stall. It's a very short cable on Tesla Superchargers, much shorter than the cables on DC fast chargers from other networks. And that's basically because the DC fast chargers on the networks like Electrify America, EVgo, ChargePoint, so forth and so on, have to accommodate vehicles that have charge ports in all different places on the vehicle. There's no standard location for charge ports on electric vehicles. Some automakers have them on the very front of the vehicle. Some have them on the front left fender. Some have them on the rear right quarter panel, and some in the same location that Tesla has on the rear left side. So the DC fast chargers on the other networks needed to be able to reach anywhere on the car, so their cables are longer. Tesla never had that issue because its vehicles just back into the stall, plug in, so you can understand why it wouldn't reach other locations of the vehicle. And now that other cars can use Tesla Superchargers, there's problems with the cables reaching the charge ports on the vehicles. When I did my initial Tesla Magic Dock video, I had a lot of trouble just getting the cable to reach the charge port on my F-150 Lightning. And I still have that problem. I have to nearly touch the supercharger. I've got to pull up within an inch of it on my bumper in order for the cable to stretch. And when I do that, I'm charging in the wrong stall. I need to park in the stall to the right of the supercharger. So I'm basically blocking two supercharger stalls, which, you know, isn't really nice to do, but you have no choice. So what some companies now are talking about doing, and this company A2Z is doing, is developing extension cables for superchargers. Now, it's been a hot topic because there was a Tesla engineer that came on X once that said, we don't approve of these supercharger extension cables, but I think there's been some back and forth with A2Z and Tesla since then, and I know A2Z is going forward and making it. And that's what I have here. I have a prototype of the extension cable they're going to sell. Now, this is a prototype. This is not what the final product is going to be. There's a lot of differences. But I asked for them to send me one just so I can begin to open this conversation about Tesla Supercharger extension cables. And for instance, I'll go right off the bat. This is 16 feet long. The extension cable that they're going to sell is only going to be about 5 feet long. And that's actually good because this thing weighs 21 pounds. It's very heavy. I weighed it. So I figure the 5-foot one should probably only weigh about 7 pounds. It'll be a lot easier to lug around. I mean, this is thick, heavy cable, so it's very heavy. Now, I don't have all the specifications on this as far as voltage and amperage. Well, I know the voltage is going to be rated for 1,000 volts. That's solid. But A2Z's been playing around with different amperage limits. They haven't settled in on exactly where it's going to fall. I don't think it's going to be 500 amps like their Typhoon Pro adapter is. I think it's going to be lower. I do know that there are 4 thermal sensors in it, 2 in each side. One of the thermal sensors, when it reaches 85°C, which is 185 degrees Fahrenheit, will tell the vehicle and the charger to derate, to lower its output. It won't shut it off. And then there's another sensor on each side that will tell the vehicle and the charger stop charging if, I guess, a critical temperature is reached. So I know that they have that. I also know that this was designed a while ago with the sliding lock that A2Z used on their first version of their Typhoon adapter. A2Z wasn't happy with the way this lock functioned. Tesla wasn't happy with it either and made it a point to A2Z that they didn't want them selling this and being used on their network. So what A2Z did was they came out with the Typhoon Pro adapter, which uses this press button lock on the top to release both sides. A2Z has re-engineered this end, which is the CCS end, and has the same type of a push button lock. I just don't have that version here yet. Everything else it works the same, but I have this sliding lock, and I just wanted to point that out in case people just notice that it just has that sliding lock. That's not going to be what's on the final version. So the final version is going to be smaller than this, only about 5 feet. It's going to have the same type of lock. It's going to have 2 sensors on each end. I know it's 1,000 volts rated. Don't know the amperage yet. That hasn't been completely worked out. And I do know that A2Z has told me before these go on sale, it will go through safety certification. It will be safety certified before they release it to the public. So I don't know if that means UL 2252. I don't even know if that's been finalized yet, UL 2252. It was supposed to be finalized before the end of 2024. That's the new Underwriter Laboratory standard for electric vehicle charging adapters. And this is basically considered an adapter. It's like an extension cord adapter. So I don't know if it's going to follow, if it's going to be certified under that, but I know that A2Z is engineering it to those standards. I just don't know if UL is ready to begin testing and certifying them, but it will be safety certified before it's released. Okay, with that said, let's start using this thing. Let's see how it works. And first up, what I want to do right here in the garage is see how it works on AC charging. Because while the NACS to CCS1 adapters won't work on AC charging. You can't use this. I couldn't plug this into this and charge my car because the AC side doesn't work. This, I believe, will work if I use it with an AC adapter. This is the NACS to J1772 adapter that A2Z sells. So let's plug this thing in now and see first up if the extension cable will work on AC, and then I'm going to head out to a Tesla Supercharger with my R1S, and I'm going to try to drain it down to a low state of charge and charge it up for a while. We'll see how the cable performs before I bring on the engineer that actually worked on this guy. So let's see how this thing does on AC charging first. Let me slide out here. Okay, so let's first plug in the NACS connector on this side and lock it. Okay, and now we've got the J1772 adapter. That's in here, and this thing is heavy. I wouldn't want this thing to be more than 5 feet, to be honest with you. Open this up, plug her in. Okay, I do expect it to work, but honestly I haven't tested it. I've got the red light on the R1S, which means that it's not charging yet, but now it clicked on, green blinking light. Tesla's supplying power. Okay, so the extension cord will work for AC charging. Now, why would you want that? It's a very small use case, but if you are using public Tesla destination chargers and maybe you're ICE, there's 2 or 3 cars parked in a row in front of the charger. We've all seen that, you know, different destinations, restaurants, hotels and things, but have these, you can get an extra 5 foot of cable, and maybe if you're 4 spots away, the cable will reach. Again, super small use case, but it does work on AC, and one day that might save you. Okay, I'm gonna hop in the R1S now, head to a Tesla Supercharger. We'll see how this thing works on DC. State of Charge is powered by Qmerit. After I help you decide which electric vehicle charger you're going to buy, follow the link in the description of my videos and have the installation professionals at Qmerit install it. And by following the link, Qmerit will waive the $200 on-site inspection fee. But in order to have that fee waived, you have to follow the link in the description of my videos. All right, so I'm up at a Tesla Supercharger, and of course, it just started snowing. It's in the 20s, so it's a pretty cold day. I'm gonna plug in my R1S now using the extension cable and charge from 10% up to 80%. I have it dialed in right at 10%. One thing I will note is I don't have the battery temperature at the right temperature to get the full amount of power. The Rivians do precondition for DC fast charging, but not when the battery is below 20%. And I was driving it here. I started the journey at 20%, so it wouldn't let me precondition. So I got it up to 68 degrees just by driving it really hard and using regen a lot. So it's not too bad, but I wanted to be around 90 degrees to get the full power. But you know, we'll do tests like that when I have production extension cables. This isn't a full test to see how it works because this is a prototype. But let's make sure it works first. One thing you'll notice is I'm parked in this stall, which is that Supercharger stall. I've never been able to use the correct stall when I charge my Rivian, my Ford F-150 Lightning, or my Chevy Equinox. I always have to park in this spot and use this Supercharger because the cable can reach here. This cable won't come near to reaching. I get it to about here. So that's the beauty of this extension cable. In addition to you being able to reach another Supercharger, you won't have to block the wrong stall. And if you pull up to a Supercharger and every other spot is taken, you can't charge with most non-Tesla vehicles because you need two spots next to each other to park in the wrong spot and utilize this station. So that's really the beauty of the extension cable, and that's what it's for. So with that said, let me plug it in and see if it works. I have the A2Z Typhoon Pro adapter. So, lay this down. This guy is heavy, as I mentioned. Let me plug this in. Okay, it's this way. That's plugged in nicely. See how difficult this thing is to work? That's why I was saying earlier, you wouldn't want it longer than 5 feet. And 5 feet will allow, I'm pretty sure, any vehicle to reach its charge port and utilize the correct stall. Connect this, lock it. Okay, nice and tight. It's not pulling out. Oops. I have to open the charge port. Let's plug in the R1S. Now I have plug-in charge set up, so it should just start charging. Let's see how this works. It locked. I don't have, and there's the green blinking light, so it is charging. And I also have a camera inside the car recording this charging session, so we can look at how much power it takes in and basically just take a look at that whole 10 to 80% charging session. So I'm going to take a peek in and look at what it's doing now. So it's charging at 135 kilowatts, which is exactly what I expected with the battery being under 70 degrees. If I had it up nice over 90 degrees, it would quickly climb up to about 200 kilowatts, but I don't think that's gonna happen right now because the battery isn't at the optimal temperature, but let's keep an eye on it. It actually dropped down to 130 kilowatt. So I'm gonna monitor this and then we'll take a look at the whole 10 to 80% charging session in time lapse. All right, so I'm all charged up from 10 to 80%. And honestly, it charged exactly the same as it would have if there were no extension cable involved. The charge rate did actually climb up over 200 kilowatt for a while. I think I peaked at like 205 or 206 kilowatt. It's exactly what the vehicle would have called for given the battery's temperature, even if there were no adapters or extension cables involved here. So it certainly didn't affect the charging at all, and it worked fine. Now, the one thing to consider is it is very cold out, so that could have helped keep the cable cool, and the thermal limit wouldn't have been reached. So this may be different if it's in the middle of the summer and it's 110 degrees out. But I will say that I kept the cable in the cabin of the truck, and it was in my house nice and warm before we came out here. I didn't want it to start off being cold. So when I plugged everything in, it was probably 60 or 70 degrees at that time. So it's not like the cable started out being cold soaked so we could keep everything nice and cold. So, well, I'm going to unplug it all now. Everything worked. Next up, we're going to talk to A2Z. I'm going to talk to one of their engineers about some more technical specifications and so forth on the extension cable, and maybe we can even get a better idea of when the retail version will be ready, because again, this is still in the prototype phase. All right, so I'm here today with Amin Zator, the CEO of A2Z. Amin's been on State of Charge before. Amin, thank you for coming on. And Amin's also brought his engineer. His name is Robert Powell. Robert is working on the extension cable. He's a former Tesla engineer. He's one of those 500 people that Elon fired in an overnight purge during 2024. As soon as that happened, I think Amin saw the opportunity and hired Robert, and he's been on staff there working on A2Z's products ever since. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on. This is an exciting product, but we have questions. We have a lot of questions about this extension cable for NACS, and that you could use on pretty much any NACS-enabled DC fast charger, including Tesla Superchargers. So, first question. I don't know who's going to grab this one, but my initial question, guys, is how come there's not a CCS end on the cable? Why do I have to use an adapter rather than just having one end plug into my CCS car?
So that's actually a really easy question to answer, Tom. And first of all, thanks for having me on. The easy way about it is the fact that, it's much easier to rate the adapter for the 500 amps than it is to rate the extension cable for 500 amps. So because we have the extension cable designed the way we do, and we have the adapter designed the way we do, we're able to separate the two of them. But also, other than that, and you've carried the cable, you know how heavy it is. It's a heavy beast to wrangle around. And so one of the things is, you want to make sure that it's actually still manageable, and you want to make sure that it's easy to use. It's not one of these things that you're going to use every single time you go to a store, but it's definitely something you're going to use more often than not.
It was practically a business decision, and also on the aspect of rating, like Robert said, we want people to have an adapter, all the people to have an adapter, and if you really need an extension cord, then you can buy it separately. We don't expect the extension cord to sell as much as the adapters.
Yeah, obviously. And, mentioned the weight. I weighed the cable you gave me, but of course, this is 15 feet long. It's like 3 meters long. This was just prototypes that you made. This was over 21 pounds. The production version you're going to sell, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's just going to be in one size. You're not going to offer different sizes. It's 5 feet long. Are you sure that will reach everybody's charge port if they're trying to plug into a supercharger?
Yeah, so I've used my Rivian for it, and I've even backed my Rivian up and put it in the stall, and 5 feet works just fine. I've also, I've tested it on, people's, other people's, like the Chevy Bolt and, the other ones that are out there. The Equinox, that was actually just another one that I just tried the other day. The Ionic, tried that the other day, and you know they've worked well. I've approached Amin about making a shorter 18-inch version, but I haven't managed to quite convince him yet. Maybe your viewers can spur him on a little bit.
Yeah, I was almost thinking, do you need a longer one? Are there any vehicles like my F-150 Lightning, which I haven't tried yet? I haven't had the opportunity to try it. That's bad on me. I'm going to try it soon, and kind of measure 5 feet off and see if that would reach. That has a really long hood, and the charge port is in the front left quarter panel. So that's if it reaches in the single stall with a Lightning, if you pull straight in, I think any vehicle would reach. So once I get a shorter one,
I've tried it on my friend's Lightning, and it reached with no issues. So
really,
you shouldn't have any issues. And then you got to remember that you can strategically place yourself better in the stall. Put it more a little bit to the right side, and you get just that extra couple of inches, and then you're fine.
Yeah, I mean the thing about the stalls, and a lot of people commented on this. When I made my video, I talked about not wanting to take up 2 stalls, and a lot of people said, "Well, I don't really care. Tesla opened it up for other vehicles, so I don't mind blocking 2 stalls." It's not just the point of blocking 2 stalls; it's also the fact that you might not be able to plug in because you need to get 2 stalls open next to each other. There's been times with my Lightning when I drove actually up towards Canada. I was like 10 miles from the Canadian border, and I had to stop at a Tesla Supercharger, and the Tesla folks, they're so conditioned from the olden days where they had to park in every other stall because the stall's power shared, that and the V3s of course don't really work that way. The site was only half occupied, but there wasn't 2 stalls next to each other open, so I had to sit there and wait for somebody to pull in. And of course, the one person that was just about ready to leave, somebody pulls in next to him, and I'm like, oh. And then I had to wait for the next person to leave and get to. I was able to, but that's the use case for this, in my opinion, and also for trucks that are maybe trailering. I think this might help them be able to reach their charge port easier, get a little bit extra space.
That's one thing that I've had a use case on, is because I carry. And it makes it so much easier to go to some of these stalls that are basically facing one way, but the backside is open, and I can pull along the backside, and I can just pull the hose around and connect and charge that way, so I don't have to worry about that. I mean, I'm out of everyone's way, I'm out of everyone's situation. Of course, the Rivian, I have no problem putting it on the grass if I need to, but trying to get it as far away but at the same time as close as possible. So
all right, let's get to some more questions. One of the days when I was doing the testing, it was snowing out, and it hit me then more so than the other times. I don't know why, but it's just the fact that there was moisture. The end that I connect the Tesla Supercharger to is laying on the ground.
Yeah.
And I know that I think it's the mating has an IP54 rating, which I don't know how well that is for water intrusion if it's in a little puddle or something. How will that work?
Yeah, so
mating. The enclosure is IP67. Sorry, Robert, I cut you off. Go ahead.
You're good. So yeah, we're working on that. So one of the things is on our input side, we are going to put some gasketing material in there to make sure that it does keep a good seal on there, so that it doesn't have any water intrusion. IP67, of course, is for the enclosure. As Amin said, IP54 is for the actual contactor itself. And we're developing around that to make sure that we do keep that rating clear. That means that we don't have to worry about it being in a puddle as such. But it's not something that you're going to go take into the ocean and submerge for 3 or 4 hours while you're charging. This is not an aquatically based extension cable rating.
Yeah, I think
we also decided to use the same technique that we've used with the adapter, which is full insulation with some kind of silicone material. So that full insulation not only will protect the extension cord from shock, will help with heat dissipation, and will also create isolation of the DC pins inside the extension cord.
Okay, since we're talking about them, I know you had told me that each end of the cable has two thermal sensors. One will derate the charge and the other one will stop charge. Could you explain to me how that works and why is there a need for two different sensors?
So there's actually 4 sensors. You got half right. So each side of them has 2 thermocouples. One is based on the actual pin itself, and one of them is based on the housing itself. And that is on both sides, and both of them operate independently, but also dynamically together. That allows us to go ahead and derate the charge cycle. It also allows us to interrupt and stop the charge cycle if there's too much of a thermal issue. Just like our extension, like the adapter, basically think of this as just a giant elongated adapter. That's basically what this is, where it passes the communication through and allows us to go ahead and keep the communication going as well for not only the vehicle side temperature sensing, but also the charger side sensing.
So that the derating, does it dynamically decide what to derate to, or is there like a derating, like if it hits the sensor, it drops down to 100 amps? Is there like a hard limit, or is it dynamic?
It's dynamic. So there's the sensors in there. Basically, it looks for the sensor to reach a certain threshold. Once it reaches that threshold, it goes ahead and drops down to what is called stage 1. Stage 1 will then enable you to go to stage 2 derating. So basically 175 down to 160-ish, then down to 150, then down to 75, and then down to 50 or even 25, going lower and lower until it gets back within a safety threshold, and then it could ramp up if needs be.
It's basically, Tom, we use this is based on the standard. We use resistors. Those resistors, when the temperature threshold is reached, those resistors send a signal to the EVSE and the vehicle. And we know that on the EVSE as well, there's temperature monitoring, constant temperature monitoring. So whenever you reach a certain point, depending on the charging station's operator, you're going to have derating. And if the temperature keeps on rising, and if it gets to the point that the second temperature sensor gets activated, then you're going to have a thermal shutdown, immediate thermal shutdown. In our testings, we've seen derating, and we've tested with our initial version of the extension cord, which was rated for 250 amps. And we've seen derating. It works as intended. And we've tested it in Robert's hometown, the Texas climate. So for us, it was the perfect climate to ensure that we have all the conditions to test thoroughly the extension cord. And that's only in real life scenarios. We also have our testing facility in China where we expose the adapters, the extension cord to very high powers and measure temperatures at both ends in the middle of the extension cord and such.
Well, yeah. Well, I used it to charge my Rivian a few times, and I pulled over 200 kilowatts for a while, and it didn't derate. So I know I was probably exceeding what your say target amperage rating is going to be for it, but it can most likely do that for a little while, but it depends on I have a Chevy Equinox EV also, and that'll pull 500 amps for like 18 minutes. If I were to plug in and it was hot out, and it starts pulling 500 amps at a very low state of charge. I know in our previous conversations, you said that you weren't dialed in on a set amperage. It's going to be rated for 1,000 volts, but you didn't know where you were coming in on the final amperage rating. Have you made a decision on that yet?
Yeah, we've decided it's going to be 350 amps. So we're locked in at 350. To your point, that you reached 200 kilowatts and then it ran for a while and then back down. Yeah, that is outside of our threshold. But like you said, it's just like the adapters. The adapters are designed, for a certain threshold. They can deviate above that for a little bit, but they're ultimately going to come down and bring themselves back to a steady state. when the communication occurs between the charger and the vehicle.
And I believe you tested it recently where it was a little cold outside.
Yeah.
You're gonna see the rating more on in summer. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, okay. So, to those customers that have electric vehicles, that'll pull 500 amps. My Lightning will pull 500 amps, for instance. I mean, all my EVs will pull 500 amps now. Should they be concerned about using an extension cable that you're rating at 350 amps?
No, not at all. I mean, going back to what I said earlier, this is not the absolute prime case for the extension cord. The prime case for the extension cord is, like you said earlier, where you've got, only one stall open and you can only fit and run off one stall. Ideally, you still want to go ahead and be able to take two stalls so that you can get that full charging amperage. But, when it's severely congested at a charging station, like the Buc-ee's here in Luling, in Texas, that one is always busy. There is never a free stall there. And so one of the things is you take one spot and you just charge it a little bit longer, and you get to a better spot where you can go ahead and take that full charge rating.
And, right. And what you're talking about before we go to Amin is that the stations will power share. And that, right. So the person next to you is taking some of the power, which you wouldn't, if that's the case, in most cases, unless you're at an Iona station, those new Iona stations can deliver 600 amps simultaneously to both sides. So, you'll get your full power there. But you don't need to worry about that if you do. If you hit that thermal limit, it'll just send a signal to the charger or the vehicle. Which one does it tell slow your charging down to?
So it actually passes communication both ways. So, our extension is basically an elongated, adapter, like I said earlier, which means that it's not actively doing any of the communication. It is just passively passing the information. So it passes the information from the charger station to the EV, and then from the EV back to the charging station. So it would be like just the test plug just plugged right into the vehicle. It's not an issue there. So they both have to handshake and both have to pass the communication. And that's how they both decide to derate or not derate.
Okay.
And, it's the same as for charging stations and charging stations cables. They have a certain rating, and we've seen it on the market where you can go over those ratings. We call it overboost. You can go to these thresholds for 15 minutes, 10 minutes. It's not a danger as long as you have proper temperature monitoring. This is the most important thing. If you don't have temperature monitoring and if you don't have quality products, our extension cord, the cable is already rated by UL. We intend to submit the extension cord before release for certification. And we're responsible as a company. We never rush the product on the market. We make mistakes, we fix them. We have engineers, reputable engineers. We have a lot of people around us, contact with OEMs as well. So we are very transparent. We share our products with proper people, and we get their feedback in order to improve if there's something we haven't seen. But as far as I'm concerned, right now, our team has grown a lot, and we have very, very knowledgeable people with us. So we're never going to release this extension cord unless we are 100% sure it is safe.
I mean, while I have you here, you said that you're going to submit it for certification. Mm-hmm. To what body? Like what certification do you plan on getting? Is UL 2252 even finished yet and ready to certify, or will it be a different certification body?
It's going to be through, for example, any CSA UL body, and then it's going to be through the proper certification for this extension cord. UL 2252 is ready. We have submitted our adapters to UL 2252. They're taken inquiries and certification inquiries. So we have everything we need to submit the extension cord to certification certification agencies.
Okay. Here's another question I got from some followers. Most of the cables on DC fast charge, all of them by now, are liquid cooled. your cable's not. How does it? How is that not a problem?
Yeah, so that's actually a really good one, Tom. We'd love to make our cable liquid cooled. However, carrying around the pumps and the fluid and the hoses and all that, it's not worth it. So that's why we keep ours at 350, because that's the highest rating that we can get out of these cables, and still provide a good, reputable charging session. We'd love to be able to do it, but there's just no way to tap the liquid cooling system that's there to then charge it out. That's why we've got the dual temperature sensors. That's why we've got the added safeties that we do, like with the latching mechanisms, that allows us to go ahead and make sure that it's the safest cable at 350 that we can, and still provide the best charging we can.
A fun story, Tom. One of my counterparts in China, we've bugged him for a while. We're like, we need a 500 amps cable, and we were studying that the feasibility of this. And then he came with the idea. He told me, we could make a pump, a transportable pump, and it's going to be attached with the extension cord. It's going to be a whole unit itself. It's going to weigh 10 kilograms. Do you think it's a good idea? I'm like, no way. There is no way people are going to buy an extension cord with a box and then you have to carry this. It's not worth the hassle. So we decided that the extension cord is going to be the rating faster. You're not going to get full speeds. Like I said in the previous video, it's not a flagship product. It's the product that's going to help in case you come to a supercharger that's full and you have no way to take two spots, or if you're carrying something in the back of your truck or your vehicle. And that's it. We've made a sacrifice in order to help EV drivers. It's either that or we don't release no extension cord because people are expecting the faster speeds. It's impossible.
Okay. Quick question. Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that they're going to have a problem with this? I noticed about a month or a month and a half ago, you posted a picture, on X about you testing the cable, and a Tesla engineer responded with a quote, something that, those are not safe. Never use an extension cable. And I think you responded to, look, have you even, are you willing to at least take a look at it? What if we have temperature sensors? What if it's fully engineered? And he kind of seemed warmed up to that. Whatever happened with that? Did you follow up with Tesla?
Yeah, we continued the conversation with Wes, and we continued having a conversation with him, and that's an ongoing conversation, and we're hoping that we'll get some fruitful resolution out of it soon.
Yeah.
Okay. So you haven't gotten a cease and desist letter on your
Not yet.
extension cable yet. Okay. Well, hopefully you don't. I've used A2Z products for years, and I'm comfortable saying that I don't think Amin would put something out that he didn't truly believe was safe. So hopefully that'll be the case with this. And we know there's a need for it. We know Tesla's coming out with the V4s that are going to have longer cables, and they said they're going to upgrade cables on V3s. But they've got 30,000 chargers out there, supercharger stalls, I think, at this point in North America. It'll take years and years before they can do that. And so there's a need for this now. So I'm glad you guys are trying to do it.
It's not just the Tesla Supercharger stations that need this. It's also like the charge point chargers, and also some of these other DC fast charging systems that are out there that need these. EVgo has a great system, but like you said, you can't always park in an easy accessible spot. Electrify America is another one. I can't tell you how many times I've pulled into an Electrify America station and one side is broken, the other side is not, and I've got to park on the broken side, and I've then got to drag a cable around. Having the extension cable there really would helps. So that's part of, it's not just for Tesla, but it's for everyone else as well.
Yeah.
So another question: is there a specific recommendation for how to shut the charging off or disconnect it once it's going, other than should you just press the button on the edge of the adapter to stop it? Is it better to stop it from the inside the vehicle? Do you have a preferred means of ending the charging session with this cable? Does it matter?
I don't know if Min has an answer for it. My personal recommendation is stop it from either the app, from either the Tesla app, or from inside the vehicle. Hit stop charging. That will turn the contactors off, and then go ahead and remove it. And Min may have a nicer way about it, but I'm sitting inside my vehicle anyway, taking a nap, so I just do it from inside the vehicle.
Okay.
There's, like Robert said, is not a wrong answer. So either from the extension cords handle, the Tesla's connector handle, the NACS, let's call it the NACS connectors handle, and or the vehicle / the app.
So, is there any way to prevent the cable from being stolen? It seems like somebody could just disconnect both sides and run away from it when you're, inside going to the bathroom or getting a cup of coffee. Is there any way of making this so that it has you could put a lock on it or something?
No, not at this time, Tom. That's one of the things we are working on. But keep in mind, when you have an active charging session, even a non-active charging session, if the connector is plugged in, the vehicle will lock the connector in there. So if you walk away and go to the bathroom, for example, that connector is going to be locked into the vehicle. So yes, they can stop the session by disconnecting the extension, but it's going to be locked into the vehicle, and then the Tesla plug will be, of course, connected to the supercharger. So you're still going to be locked in, and of course you'll get a notification about that, and hopefully you at least get dressed again before you run out there and go say, hey, what are you doing unplugging my vehicle?
Yeah, but the extension cable's plugged into this. This is plugged into my vehicle. I wouldn't be able to do this and unplug it. Some vehicles don't have that locking tab. I think that holds this down. I think the Ford vehicles in particular, you can depress it and unlock it.
I think that's been updated in the UL standard now to be required to actually be in there. On the vehicle side itself, so the vehicle itself is actually locked in for that. So.
It has to have that pin to hold that top of that down. Yeah. Okay, yeah, because if you could just depress this, you'd be able to remove the connect. You only need it to be able to be tethered to one side. It's okay if it disconnects from the Tesla charger, as long as it locks in here when the vehicle's locked. Somebody wouldn't be able to steal it. So yeah, okay. Well, that's pretty much what I have here, and I know we ran a little bit long. I'd like to ask Amin what your plans are for releasing it. If you have a runway yet where it's going to be available in a month, 2 months. Do you know pricing yet? If so, how does can you pre-order it? Tell us a little bit about how to get one of these if you want one.
So I know that a lot of people are waiting for it. A lot of people are deceived that we promised it a long time ago. It's been almost a year, and we've kept on postponing the release, but it's for the good. We take our time. We know people are deceived. Please understand that we're trying to release a safe product on the market. We don't want to rush the product on the market. We want to avoid injuries. We want to avoid damage. We want to avoid a recall. That's first of all. We're going to open up a testing program in February. We're going to select between 20 to 25 people who are, and this is going to be outside of the influencers scope. So people are going to be selected. They're going to be able to test the extension cord on their vehicles, travel with it, give us feedback on maybe it should be a little longer, maybe not. But in our case, we are right now under tooling, and we expect to start production right after we have an insight on the certification, first of all. So if I can give you a roadmap for this release, it would be by summer 2025. more precisely around May or June for an official release and shipments. Pre-orders are going to start maybe a month before shipments. People can, from now, go on our website. There's going to be a form on the right side of the image of the product where you can insert your email and be notified when the product is ready. As of now, we haven't sold any. We have a few of them within Robert's hands, Matt, our auto engineer in California, and we're testing them at Toro Foley at the moment. But that's pretty much it. In terms of length, we're thinking 1.5 meter. We're thinking in the range of 400 Canadian dollars, which is about 300 USD. That would be the price we think it's going to release at. If there's going to be any changes, it's not going to be major. We want to remain.
Even if Trump starts at 25%
that's
tariff on goods from Canada.
That's another story. But we want to remain as fair as possible, limit our profit margins in order to have this product accessible to everyone.
Okay. Listen, guys, that's a half an hour. That's longer than I told you would be. I really appreciate you coming on and giving us this information. You answered all my questions. Keep up the good work. Get this thing done and certified. And, I can't wait to get the production version and really give it a full, thorough review. There's only so much I can do with this one because it's pre-production. So really, what I do doesn't matter that much because it's not the production version, but I appreciate you guys sending me one of the few that you have and giving me an opportunity to use it and tell the State of Charge community what you guys are working on and to keep an eye out for it. So thanks a lot for coming on.
Thanks.
My pleasure. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
And once again, I'd like to thank Amin and Robert for coming on. I think that was very informative. Okay, so what did we learn about this new extension cable? Well, it's going to be rated at 1,000 volts and 350 amps. However, it will be able to sustain higher amperage for a certain period of time. If there's too much heat going on because of the high amperage, there's two sensors at each end of the connections, and one will derate the power and the other one will stop charging completely if it gets too hot. The cable will have some sort of safety certification before it goes on sale, although I'm not 100% clear what that is. I don't think it would be certified under UL 2252. That's an adapter specific certification process. I don't know if there's a specific certification for extension cables yet. As a matter of fact, that there isn't. So, I'm not sure exactly how that's going to be safety certified, but we'll learn about that from A to Z as it gets closer to launch, which is going to be late spring, early summer. And A to Z is going to have it available for pre-order maybe a month or so before it goes on sale. So think April-ish, maybe May, when you can reserve one. It's going to go on sale for about $300. They do have a placeholder on the A to Z website now that says $285. So I don't know if that's exactly it, but it's going to be really close to that price because Amin said about $300. I am going to work with A to Z to see if we can get a nice discount for State of Charge followers, as I did with their Typhoon Pro adapter. And speaking of the adapter, I don't think that this specific product is going to have nearly the widespread appeal that the NACS adapters do. Everybody doesn't need this. So don't think that if you have an EV, oh, I need to get this extension cable. Most people don't need it actually, but there are people that will. And this is going to be useful for a certain subset of electric vehicle drivers. I don't know how widespread this is really needed, but I know that they are going to sell pretty well, at least in the beginning, because just from feedback I've gotten from my followers, a lot of people had said, Tom, when are these things going to be available? A to Z's been talking about it for a year. I need to get one. It's really going to help me in my specific use case. We heard Amin talk a little bit about the fact that he admits it's been delayed. He's gone through a lot of testing processes, and they had to zone in on how much amperage was going to be able to be flowing through the cable. the length of the cable. That's where the prototypes are much longer, but they figured out that 5 foot seems to be the sweet spot for most people, and it should allow any electric vehicle to pull in the correct stall and have the cable reach. Well, that's pretty much all we have here today. I'll update you as I get more information about this extension cable. If this is your first time here at State of Charge, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming electric vehicle news and reviews. And as always, thank you for watching.